Hello from the car park of the AXA Training Centre, where we've just been hearing from Jurgen Klopp ahead of Liverpool's quarter-final FA Cup trip to Manchester United on Sunday. Now, usually with a game of this size, all the focus would be talking about the match itself, the themes of the game, who's going to be important, who's going to score the goals, who's going to be the star of the match. But instead, really, Jurgen Klopp, the most interesting thing I think he came out with ahead of this match was around Liverpool's team news. He gives one of the more comprehensive injury updates that we've heard from him in a long time. In fact, there's 7 different players that he covered, and I think, yes, this game against Manchester United is big, but in terms of Liverpool, they're looking to win trophies on 4 different fronts, aren't they? Or 3 left after they've won the League Cup, and so this injury news takes on greater significance with each passing week. They need a full squad, don't they, to get through the rest of this season. They need to get players back ASAP, so I think this has almost an extra importance to it than it would maybe usually do, and so I'm going to get into that as the main talking point and start off by talking about these injury updates. Jurgen Klopp can usually be a little cagey around those, but he actually was really frank with us today. So I'll get into those, and I'll start with the more short-term injury concerns. And the first of those I'll start with, maybe bad news really, is Ibrahima Konate. Now, although he came off in that first leg against Sparta Prague, and Jurgen Klopp was maybe criticised for using him in that game, particularly as Liverpool went on to win comfortably, and the hope was when he first got injured that it wasn't a serious one, at least they'd covered it off and picked it up quite early so that Konate wasn't going to be out too long, and the hope was in fact that he would be in contention here to face United on Sunday, but unfortunately it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. He didn't train today. He's got maybe a chance of training tomorrow, but Jurgen Klopp put it as he said that he's probably not going to make it because just one training session in him, it is a muscle issue. They obviously don't want to push it with Konate, who's got a history of getting muscle issues, so I don't think they're going to push it. Doesn't look like he's going to be in the squad to face United at Old Trafford, which is a blow. You'd have liked to seen him in there. He's as important as Virgil van Dijk, really, isn't he, in terms of his performances at centre half this season. But like I say, if it's going to be a risk, it's probably not worth it, and I don't think Liverpool will take any risk, so don't expect Konate to be there. Now, that is some bad news, but I think the rest was very, very positive and upbeat actually from Jurgen Klopp. Really interesting stuff. I'll start with, again, another short-term one. You may remember that Bobby Clark went off in the second leg against Sparta Prague with what looked like a knock, but I don't think it's anything more serious than that. Jurgen Klopp suggesting that he's going to be okay, he's no lasting effects from that, it was just a bang, and hopefully he's going to be fine after that, so should again be part of the squad to face United. Another player who's coming back to be part of the squad is Ryan Gravenberch. He trained today, should train tomorrow, and again, we know he's been in and around team training in the early part of the week, so should absolutely be ready. Don't think he's going to come in to start, but I think he will be part of the squad, which again is a big boost, isn't it? He's been missing, of course, since that Carabao Cup final when he twisted his ankle quite horribly. I mean, the sources I've spoken to and I've written stories about his injury timeline is that he feels very, very lucky, really, that he didn't actually break his ankle from that challenge from Caicedo. So really good to have him back as quickly as that, and as I say, into the squad on Sunday, and that is a boost in midfield. Now, talking about midfield, Curtis Jones, he's looking like he's going to be back after the international break. Of the injuries that Liverpool have got left now, Jurgen Klopp said he's the likeliest one to be back for Brighton. He should be absolutely fine to make that, which again, he's been so important this season, hasn't he? So it's going to be good to get him back in the mix. So a boost on that front. And then some slightly surprising news actually is that Trent Alexander-Arnold should be the week after that. Actually, maybe we probably expected that. He's got that knee injury, hasn't he? So probably going to miss Brighton. The week after that he should come back, but then the real surprise came when Jurgen Klopp said that Diogo Jota is on a similar timeline in terms of, he, like Trent Alexander-Arnold, has got a chance of being back in the week after that Brighton game. Now, that is a huge boost, isn't it? There's 2 games in that week, Sheffield United and then another trip to Old Trafford in the Premier League. So to get all those players back for that would be absolutely phenomenal news for Liverpool. I say it's a particular boost for Diogo Jota because the reports from Portugal suggested kind of mid-April, and even though that almost tracks with that, you always think that mid-April was maybe going to be the best case scenario. So if Jota can get ahead of that and, as I say, be back for Old Trafford again, I think that's a humongous boost for Liverpool. Even if he can't start games, to have him off the bench, the goal threat he provides, we've seen him as a super sub so many times in his Liverpool career, so to get him back for the run in, and as soon as that, just feels absolutely vital for Liverpool. So really good news on that front, I'd say, on Jota in particular. And the last one in terms of injuries, another one that I think is a boost is Stefan Bajcetic. Now, we know he's only been restricted to 2 appearances so far this season. He's had a stress response around his adductor, and they've just been waiting for the pain to subside around that before he can train. Now, thankfully, that has happened now, and Jurgen Klopp has described him as being in almost a mini pre-season now. So he's training with no pain. He's absolutely fine. He's just getting his body ready now for the demands of playing professional football. So they're just warming him back up, and again should be back in training after the international break. Now, he's been out for quite a while. I don't expect to be starting a lot of games between now and the end of the season. I think it's going to be tough for him to get up to speed, but having him as a rotational option in midfield, even if that's to give someone half an hour's rest at the end of a game, you're winning quite comfortably or anything like that, I think that's a huge boost really in terms of avoiding further injuries. Having those options, having those rotational options, even as late subs in games, I think Stefan Bajcetic can be very, very important in terms of that, particularly when it comes to maybe protecting Wataru Endo in that holding midfield position. He's a great option there. So, I think that's really, really good news, and it'd be great for Liverpool to have him back, and great for the player himself after such a long time on the sidelines. Must have been extremely frustrating. So, great to have him in and around the mix, and should be back after that international break and back in full training, which is great. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the game itself, and I'll go, obviously it's a big one against Manchester United, so he did actually talk about it. And Jurgen Klopp said he's looking forward to it, as you would expect, and he's looking forward to the fact that he can take around 9,000 fans to Old Trafford. Obviously that side of the ground is going to be packed out with Liverpool supporters making a racket, so he's very much looking forward to that, and how he'd love to get another win at Old Trafford in his final season at Liverpool as well. And he talked about, actually interesting, on the first meeting between these sides this season, which you'll remember finished in a 0-0 draw at Anfield. Now, very frustrating game for fans in terms of, United came in really poor form and managed to leave with a point, managed to keep a clean sheet, which never really happens against Liverpool. But Jurgen Klopp talks about that game, speaks about it really highly actually in terms of Liverpool's performance. And he's done this before, but the quote I've got here is, "That game I first saw that was really us in next gear. The result didn't show that, and I have no clue whether it will be the same game this time around. I don't expect it, obviously. It's a home game for them." But he speaks about the fact that even though Liverpool didn't get the result there, the way they boxed United in, kept the pressure on, they had chance after chance in that game. He was actually really pleased with the performance, and he says, if we can recreate that, it's going to be difficult because this time it's away from home, but if we can recreate that, and he's confident that the result will come. So it's really, he wants to see a performance like that, if we're just a slightly different result this time around. So I thought it was interesting on that. Now, a couple of other things to tick off. He talked about Joe Gomez getting his call up for England, and he said, you may have heard in the build up to actually Joe Gomez getting the call up, that he said after the Manchester City game, "Come on, Gareth, you must have seen how well he's performing. He should surely be in the squad." And Jurgen Klopp was asked about that, and he said, "I don't think my comments had a lot of influence, but I'm really happy for him. I saw in his face he was very happy about it." He mentioned as well that he said, the hope is he can go there to England, enjoy it, but then come back healthy, because Joe Gomez does have a bit of a record of picking up injuries on England duty. So fingers crossed Liverpool don't come across any issues like that. And I'll just wrap up with Jurgen Klopp talking about the Europa League draw, which you'll have all seen today. Liverpool to face Atalanta in their quarter-final, and he described it as tricky and said they're uncomfortable to play against and very well organised. Now, Liverpool, of course, faced them in the Champions League not too long ago, so he does know a little bit about them as well, and he's expecting a difficult tie for Liverpool, but you would expect him to say that as well. But I think the overall arcing theme, outside of the huge team news that we got and the massive updates around that, was the idea that Jurgen Klopp is very much looking forward to this trip to Old Trafford. 9,000 fans, as he said, representing Liverpool. Liverpool going in great form and hoping, and up against a United side who have not played well this season, and they'll really be hoping to show that there's a huge dearth between the two sides. So let's hope that they can do that. And I want to ask, are you excited as well about the game? How do you think it's going to go? Do you think Liverpool are going to run out comfortable winners, or do you think that United will make it tricky, as they have tended to do down the years? Do let me know in the comments how you're feeling about this game, and of course, if you can drop a like and a subscribe, that always helps to get the channel out there. And of course, I'll leave it there for now and say that I'll see you for my post-match review, and hopefully we're talking about another Liverpool win, another win for Jurgen Klopp at Old Trafford. See you then.